and
Yeah.
we'll get everybody to introduce each other right as we start.
Hello.
And we have a storm going over me as I'm outside. So we should have a few more joining us. Especially the ones who are going to present.
Well, Stanley, we've got storms here, so you know, you never know how long this internet will hold up from where I live. So
that's true. You do live in that tornado area.
yeah, we get more than we should.
Well, hopefully this will be calmed down in a few minutes. Yeah, the wind all of a sudden picked up, but it was supposed to be going north of us. So we got a few more. Phil joined us. Good. I'm glad to know that the guys who were going to show us some photos showed up. If it keeps up, I may have to go inside. Okay, since we got some people here already started, let me get, let's see, Allison, if you can start us, tell us your name, where you live, and your favorite photographer or cinematographer.
So yeah, I'm Allison Basie. I live in Columbus, Ohio. Yes. OHIO. Go Bucks. That's for you, Jeff. Favorite photographer. One of them would be Ansel Adams, I guess. So.
Billy, why don't you tell us, remind everybody where you live and your favorite photographer.
All right, so I'm in Ringgold, Georgia, which is about 15 minutes outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And as Stanley mentioned earlier, we're in the second area of Tornado Alley here. At least recently we have been, because we got hit pretty hard a few weeks ago. Favorite photographer? Well, I don't know. I have a bunch. I guess the one that's influenced me the most is probably Sebastião Salgado. But there are others that have influenced also. But I think I tend to gravitate toward not just his photos, but his dedication and storytelling, because I think it goes way beyond pictures. So.
Thanks. Can I get Gil? Tell us who you are and where you're living and your favorite photographer.
My favorite photographer is Stanley Leary, because he helps me with my computer programs. I am Gil Williams. I live in Lakeland, Florida, which is right between Tampa and Orlando, in the middle of the outback of Florida, and that's where I have my office, which you can see in the background here. It's a meager little place.
Cool.
And I'm gonna go.
Okay, Jeff, just tell everybody, introduce yourself, where you're from again, and favorite photographer. Are you still on here?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, so I'm based in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is where the international headquarters of our mission agency. We work in 75 different countries, and well, there's a lot of favorite photographers. Going way back to my roots, Richard Avedon was always a strong one for me. I gained a lot of insights from studying his work.
Oh, good. And let's see, give me 1 second. I'm literally sending the link to James. He didn't have that right away, so I'll send that to him. And give me 1 second, almost done. Who else has not introduced themselves? Go ahead and start.
Yes, I'll go ahead. I'm Phil Wallis. I am based out of Chicagoland. However, I grew up in Ohio, so that's the connection there. Yeah, and as far as photographers, Allison already stole one of my favorites with Adams, but as far as like cinematography, you got like Wally Pfister, Deakins, those guys that create kind of that haunting look and feel with their stuff. Greg Frazic, Kaminsky, and as far as like docs go, like Ken Burns, Herzog, and like anyone that's working on the frontline stuff, they're always kicking out really great material.
Great. And let's see, Michael, we're just asking everybody to give us their name, where you live, and your favorite photographer or cinematographer.
Michael Alexander. I'm in the Atlanta area, and I'm gonna go old school photojournalists, John White and Bob Black from the Chicago. Well, they used to be at the Chicago Sun-Times.
Cool. And let's see, we got Jeff. I think I got everybody so far. James, you want to introduce yourself and answer those?
Yes, James Dockery, and I know you asked favorite photographer, and I've racked my brain. I don't have a favorite photographer for some reason. So if I had to pick one, Stanley, it's going to be you. I like to travel with you, and you always shoot good stuff. So yeah, you're an inspiration, and enjoy shooting with you.
Okay. Let me see if I want to be sure I'm not missing any emails or anything saying they can't join in. I think we're okay. Tell you what, we'll go ahead and start early with the timeline. I've got James up first, and what we're trying to do is he's going to get about 10 minutes or so to kind of present, and then we're going to take about 5 to 10 minutes of questions from everybody. And over on the right side of chat, down at the bottom, if you click chat, there's the kind of the time of everything we're doing. But also, if you want people to stay in touch with you, you can share your name, email, or anything if you want to. And if you don't want to, that's okay as well. And we may end up having some people joining us from mission fields like Turkey. One guy was talking about joining us. One person was going to join us from Togo, but last second couldn't do it. So go ahead, James, whenever you're ready.
All right, great. Can everybody hear me fine now? Just make sure. Hopefully see me fine, hear me fine.
And go ahead and mute yourself if you're not talking. That'll keep any extraneous sounds out, except for James.
Perfect, perfect. I am James Dockery. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and just hi to everybody. Hope you all are doing well. Here at my family, we're doing good. Hope you are. Hope you're doing good physically, spiritually, and economically. I know all three of those are categories that people are in various stages of that. But for me, everything's been good. I work at ESPN, and fortunately, I'm blessed. They've kept me on the payroll there, and nothing's changed. I've been able to stay on the payroll, get paid, and I've transitioned a little in my role from editor there, where we have to go in every day. I'm doing things from here at home, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. But I am blessed. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump into my PowerPoint and let you see that. Uh-oh, Stanley, it says host disabled, screen sharing.
That should have given you a try now.
See if that works.
Hold on. I don't know why I did that.
But,
there you go. Try it now.
okay. Somehow you disappeared there. Let me find you. There you are. Perfect. Okay, let's try that again. And all right. We are good.
Oh, not yet. There it goes.
Yeah, good.
You're good.
All right. Everybody can see all right? Screen? Perfect. So there I am at ESPN, and I've been there for about 20, not 20, I've been shooting for 20 years as a photographer. I've been at ESPN for 10 years. So 10 years ago, I made a transition from photography into videography. And I saw the handwriting on the wall with where studios were going. I was doing a lot of things that you guys do. I wasn't attached to a publication or paper, but I had a studio, brick and mortar. I was doing weddings, seniors, commercial photography. But I saw that decreasing. And my degree is in video production. So I made a transition. This was about the time we got that button on the back of our camera. We could switch from photos to video. And so I took advantage of that and learned all I could about editing with these new DSLRs. And so I parlayed that into a part-time job. Actually, I started freelance at ESPN for a year, and then they had me part-time for the second year and then hired me full-time after that. So I've been blessed. It's a great company to work for. I still do photography for them occasionally, and most of the time I'm editing. I'm in a studio doing that. So and my motto in life, as you see here, this is a shot Stanley took of me in Kosovo, is it's kind of fun to do the impossible. And in this day and age we're living in right now, you have to try to do the impossible, and you got to be creative and think outside the box. And so that's my motto in life. I've tried to make myself relevant and useful, and it's helped me even now because as I've learned Premiere, many of you are familiar with Storytellers Abroad. If you're not, Google that when you're done. Usually once a year, sometimes twice a year, Stanley, myself, and Jeff Raymond will go travel somewhere abroad and teach storytelling. It involves photography and video editing. And in 1 week's time, teach them Premiere, how to edit, and they tell a story. They have a final 4 to 5 minute production by the end of that. So if you're not familiar with it, check it out, Storytellers Abroad. Shameless commercial there. Now I'll move on. But that Premiere training helped me, and I became the lead Premiere editor at ESPN over here in Charlotte, where we do all college work. We've got about 200 employees there, and it's all college sports. And we use a Quantel program, it's called. None of you have ever heard of it, I'm sure. It's proprietary. But I learned Premiere and took that on the road. So then when they'd send me to championship games, I'd be editing with that, because Quantel cost about $38,000 to get one seat license for that. And so I trained the other editors. We have 14 editors here in Charlotte. So I learned, made myself relevant, and tried to do the impossible there, and learned Premiere. And so now that this coronavirus came upon us, editors can't go to work. They're having to edit from home. And guess who they're coming to how to do this? So James, of course. So made myself relevant and useful. And I'm now the go-to guy. I set up in the beginning a workflow of how we edit from home with Premiere, with downloading the footage. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I want to quickly get through a couple of these shots. I asked last week, Billy Weeks, I said, where would you go? This is a question I usually ask people. Where would you go in life if you had $10,000? It could go somewhere you've been before. It has to be a place you've been. And without hesitation, he said Nicaragua. And that's touched a place in my heart. Beautiful place. I got to go with my family there on a missions trip. And we got to feed the hungry children there, and it just touched our heart. That was after being there for Storytellers Abroad. We did a session down there of that, and this is a portrait I shot of Oscar the cook. He cooked wonderful meals for us every day, 3 times a day, and probably the best meals we've ever had anywhere as we've traveled abroad. And I just love the colors and the lighting in his kitchen there, and I saw him with that knife, and I quickly set up this shot, and it's one of my favorite from there. And then I'll show you one last photography shot that's my favorite that I've ever taken in life. And this was a girl in Trinidad, and just the eyes caught me, and the lighting and the glitter she had. And I had to work for this shot. I asked her, I saw her and said, you know, can I take a picture? No, can't. Took some pictures of kids, she was looking in the back of the camera, and finally she's like, all right, you can shoot me one shot. And so I had one shot to get this, and I was happy. And this to me, I realize it's close up, the cropping's tight, but just with the eyes, and it speaks. I have a canvas up on the wall here at the house, and just a shot that I love. And I do love Nicaragua also. What I typically do in my job now, again, I do photography, but I edit, and here's a shot, a 60-second spot I want to show you. I usually do high-end edits with the After Effects, if you've ever heard of that. So basically took my knowledge of Photoshop, and I get all these shots, and then I make them into a moving situation. So I'll play this for you. So typically what I do, let me see that one twice. So that's typically what I do. Can you guys see my face now or just my screen? See my face? Okay, good. I didn't want to leave this weird shot up for you.
That sound was a little cracky on the video last time. I don't know if you still have that on system.
Yeah, I still have same as system.
Okay.
Got one last video, and this last video I'm going to show you is what we're doing now. We're doing these SEC, the SEC network comes out of Charlotte, and they asked me how we can do this. So we're doing SEC updates. It's only 60 seconds, and our talent will come on and try to hit 3 highlights of what's going on in this time of no sports. So they're having to talk about other things, as you'll see, or NFL draft came up a few times. So I had to figure out a workflow, and we use a program called StreamYard. StreamYard's a great program. You can Google that, and you can have up to 6 talking heads on the screen at once. And whoever launches and is the host of that session, they can control as almost a director or a technical director and switcher from their laptop. They can make it full screen on one person, bring 3 across the screen. They can bring up 6 at one time. So it's a pretty neat way. It's a little more safe, and people aren't being able to hack into StreamYard as much. And then after the recording, the show record, they send me an MP4 file. That's what it records. I take that and edit it in Premiere down to something like you're getting ready to see here. I take the talent, I'll put titles on it, put some music in, bring some graphics. And this is what we're showing. And the point I want to make with this is the standard for broadcast TV has come down during this coronavirus, and it's amazing what we can accept. Sometimes people get so caught up in the quality, and we should be about quality, and we always are. But during this time, everybody, the viewers, you look at TV, watch American Idol or any of these live shows, The Voice, people are broadcasting from their homes, and it's pitching, and the audio doesn't match with the lips a lot of times. We accept that now, and it's fine. So just to encourage you, put content out there. People are starving for content, so get something out there. Again, this is what we're showing. This is going social media, and this is a 60-second SEC update.
Hey everyone, Alyssa Lang here with a look at some of your SEC updates. Starting in Kentucky, Emmanuel quickly has declared for the NBA draft the SEC Player of the Year, averaged over 18 points per game in conference play, and he'll join his teammates Tyrese Maxey and Ashton Higgins in declaring for the draft. Mississippi State has a new head women's basketball coach, Nikki McCray-Penson, and she knows the SEC. She was a 2-time SEC Player of the Year at Tennessee. And from 2008 to 2017, she worked with Dawn Staley as an assistant at South Carolina. She also won 2 Olympic gold medals as a player and was a 3-time WNBA All-Star. If you need any home workout motivation, Coach Muschamp has you covered. Making the boys push the family SUV up the driveway. You'll love to see it. Make sure you stay tuned to SEC Network, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for plenty more exclusive content.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to stop sharing. Hopefully you can see me on the screen now. That's what we're doing. And again, nothing great, no razzmatazz or anything fancy like that first clip I showed you with the After Effects, but it's getting the content out there. And that's what we're doing at ESPN. If you guys watched the Last Dance that aired last week or last month, we were the #1 cable show out there with the Jordan and the Bulls run. And so that's something we had on our shelf, and perfect timing to bring the content out. So we're doing good at ESPN, even though there's no sports. We're all starving for that now. But I just wanted to take the time to share this with you guys and show you a big network like that. We're editing from home and getting the content out there. So we are doing the impossible with a pretty easy workflow. Once I edit this, I just put it on, we're using OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive, and the assets come to me that way. I put them back on the finished product, and they get it and then air it from that. So that's all I had to share. My time is up here. Any questions you have, I would love to answer them.
I have one question.
Yes.
You're based in Charlotte, and there you were promoting SEC content in an ACC city. So do you do regional South? You're responsible for content in the Southeast region?
We're actually responsible for college content, and specifically, it is a little odd. The SEC network headquarters is here in Charlotte. So
okay.
all that Paul Feinbaum studio there, everybody's there. You would think we would have gotten the ACC network because of where we're geographically located.
Right.
And the plan was to do that, but when they decided at last minute that they had like 1 million square foot of unused space up in Bristol, Connecticut, they said we could save a lot of money by putting ACC up there. It caused a lot of uproar, as you can imagine, but they did say, well, we do have Syracuse up here in Connecticut. So they took ACC. You know, it was a financial thing. I probably would have made the same decision just because they had the space and didn't have to invest for new studios. But we do get some ACC work out of it. Coaches will fly here. It's easier for them to get here, and we'll do an uplink instead of going up to Bristol, Connecticut. We do things called REMIs, where it's remote broadcast. We send a small crew out. Cameras are already in place. The director and the talent sits up here in a closet, basically in Charlotte, and they're voicing the game, and you never see them on camera. So if you're ever watching an ACC game, you don't see the talent. They're here in a closet, no bigger than my office, and they're watching as you're watching and just doing the analysis as the game goes on.
Well, great work. Now I know. Now when I watch ESPN, I'll recognize some of your work, I guess.
Yes, I appreciate that. I'm not a great sports lover. It's a big secret. I love photography. I love editing. I love the graphics. But don't spread the word.
That's funny.
Yes. The first week on the job, they asked me to bring up the Yukon logo. And I'm thinking, Yukon, that's Alaska. And I'm looking all through Alaska, and I can't find Yukon anywhere. Finally, I asked the guy. He's like, no, that's Connecticut, Yukon.
U-C-O-N-N.
I was looking for a Y-U-K-O-N. It wasn't there.
That's funny.
Any other questions you have?
Anything else, guys? Okay. Well, we'll give this over to Phil, and if you come up with other questions, just there's some. Don't forget the chat over in the corner if you want to share your information, or if you want to comment or put questions there. You guys can check that, and we can get back to any if we miss something. If you think of something, go ahead. All right, Phil, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So yeah, like James, I do video primarily. This is a little kind of prank shot that I have down in our studio for anyone who happens to be in our building, which is technically closed. I've got a little mannequin head in a hazmat suit, which has had some fun. But yeah, that's my main playground, is on the video side. Edit, shoot, all sorts of stuff. I jumped in from video into from photo into video. I guess you could say early on it would have been the mid 90s. And so one of my first jobs was Atlanta in 96. So yeah, I've been doing that for quite a while, and I've been at Awana mainly in a marketing messaging role for about 20 years, and now I'm transitioned over into a curriculum program role. So it's a little bit different type of production, but still fun. This is something we had set up a week and a half ago in our studio, where trying to limit crew down as much as possible. We had one camera operator. I was doing the switch and direct on it, and we had a couple different talents. We actually had a second, a B-side set up over here for our MC, so we could try and keep people as separated as possible. Also having like individual tables set up for the different talents, so they could just drop everything on their assigned table, and you wouldn't have any cross-contamination or anything like that. So a little bit of that. This is using Blackmagic Studio 4K cameras here, paired with some very old ENG glass that I scrounged from some of our old shoulder cameras, which I can't even give away now. But the glass is still good, and it works in 4K for the most part. You get a little, you can see a little vignette in the corners, but in post that can scale out really easy. And then our master record is down here on a Hyperdeck Mini. So yeah, it's a new world. All of this used to take like a full truck or lots of rooms in a place, and now it's all packed up really, really small. And move on to what I kind of thought I was going to walk through here. A couple years ago, I think it was 2018, pulled an assignment to go into the Middle East, and the project that it was attached to it kind of went through, it kind of didn't. There's most of the collateral that we acquired on the video side, we used some of it, but on the photo side, hardly any of it ever got used. And that was due in part to just some changing circumstances there, that what we had thought we had clearance to do and to use, we found out during the shoots that yeah, the talent and the story subjects weren't comfortable anymore with us using it. So that was a very quick, very it was a fun trip, but not a very productive, useful trip in the long run. Part of that too was, as you can see the title, kind of a play on typography with the unseen and UC mixed in there. How do you tell a story without showing faces? How do you convey that emotion that you would normally get out of the eyes and out of facial expressions and those nuances? How do you get that without really being able to show any face? So one thing with my imagery and composition and everything, I do a lot of texture work, mainly because, you know, just from the video side of the world, you just need a lot of coverage, you need a lot of B-roll. And James, just as an aside on that one, I'm back from the day where you had B-roll, you had C-roll, and sometimes even D-roll, which those are kind of lost, lost in the cutaway realm of, you know, words these days. But so yeah, shoot a lot of coverage, a lot of texture work. I like textures. For whatever reason, God gave me the love of shooting barbed wire. So I've got a lot of barbed wire, from anything like with Gil when we've shot down in prisons, to around the world barbed wire. So yeah, that's fun. And moving on, so this was in a church, and just trying to heighten the mood and the emotion of it, taking it to kind of a grain, an old like a 1600 type grain or whatever, just to push that. And we've got our curriculum, our program materials translated in. We're in over, I think we're in 112 right now countries. So we've got a lot of places that even like showing this, where you've got logo and translated program text. It's a little sketchy to show, but again, most of these images have never been seen before. So they're just sitting on a drive that I carry around. Again, trying to convey without showing exact identifiable features, some of that story. Same thing. One of the things I've found as I'm, you know, either shooting for my own church or just in my personal stuff, I've started using Lightroom's color modes and whatnot, and pushing, like, this has kind of become a personal style in a way of pushing vintage 6 in the color profiles, just to kind of crush the black and whatnot with that. And I liked how that the shadow brings out the text where it's blown out in the light. Probably not a technically great photo, but I like it. Again, texture, a lot of things, especially with marketing and our communication guys, they're looking for stuff to overlay. They're looking for ad space, for call out space and everything. So texture helps out a lot with that kind of coverage. Same thing, this was in a church in a kids area. Nice color, nice area for text. And that's the wall that was shot on, with some really nice, just that glow light coming through. This was up close to the border between Lebanon and Syria, in a church. And again, you can't show kids' faces, you can't show the leaders and the adults and everything. So, you know, trying to find the iconic imagery to convey both the mood and the emotion and whatnot. We try not to push or over dramatize some of the stuff, especially when we have people in it. We tend to like to have warm, bright, happy, rather than push the slums of Calcutta, send us your money kind of thing. Same room, lots of stories in there. Just a nice opportunity for color and texture mix. One of our crew, as we're waiting for some of the talent to decide whether or not they were comfortable being interviewed, which we were able to interview, we were able to lock in that story, and it's never going to be published, unfortunately. Really strong, really good story, but situations change, and it would not be safe for that individual. This was another kind of just playing around, having fun. That's the chair that the lady that we were interviewing for this story sat in. So I had a little pinhole lens that I stuck on to it was Canon 5D Mark III, I believe. And I think it's like an 8-second exposure where I grab the chair halfway through the exposure, so you get that kind of that ghost kind of look. Again, it's never going to be used, but it's kind of fun to experiment and play around. This was a test shot for a portrait that we were going to try with a gentleman there. These are guys that are on my crew, looking a little bit more menacing than they actually are, but when you're trying to light stuff by headlights, it's always fun to have a sense of humor too. Going into camps and some of the different places, just trying to, again, tell the story without showing face, without showing identity, but to really convey the situation and circumstance. So this is, I don't know if people are familiar with WANA and clubs around the world and whatnot. It's usually involving kids playing games around a game square, as well as times where they're meeting together in small groups and large groups, excuse me. So again, we're trying to convey what goes on, that our people that are donors and people that are familiar with the program stateside, they can connect visually with things that they're familiar with, but still retain that anonymity and the iconography of the images. Slightly different take on it. I just like that lower angle. I had to go in and blur out faces and stuff with this one as well, even though it's never going to be publicized. It's just better to be safe than sorry on that. Just trying to convey some of that emotion. There was a guy that early on in video for me, there's a guy who was, I think he was one of the main CBS football directors and producers, and he really pounded into everybody the fact that sports production is motion but emotion. So there's that, you need to convey that higher kind of or the higher strength in the emotion of the material and not just the motion. So I try to carry that on through how I shoot. Again, conveying the story with familiar elements without showing faces, and having some space for copy and whatnot that we could use. This was kind of borderline on identifiable, but since all their faces are either away or covered, we decided that would be, we can keep it. Again, just some fun stuff with that, and showing context of just the reality of the life there along that border and in some of the refugee camps and IDP camps. Walking into one of the camps. And then this was in, it's kind of like a pop-up church, but not really. It was a little bit more established than just a pop-up, but all the kids' shoes and everything, that always makes for good imagery. And not the greatest shot, but when you're conveying the context of it, we felt that it worked. And then also kind of setting the context of, you know, exterior wides and whatnot with that. So yeah, that's what I have from that. So you guys get to see a little bit of stuff that no one else has ever seen, including a lot of our own staff.
Anybody got some questions for Phil?
Yeah, Phil, thanks. Thanks for sharing. Enjoyed watching those. About partway into that, it occurred to me why you look so familiar. Then you showed the studio there in Schaumburg, and I'm like, I've been there. And I think I met you. You were scrambling to pack for a trip. I was there with John Walton.
Yeah.
And you were scrambling to pack, and we were blowing through. But yeah, our we took our kids to their Awana end of the year program Wednesday night, which was in the drive up format. Drive up, they shove your awards in, and drive up to the next station, they give you something else. The leaders had masks, but the kids loved getting out. But thanks for sharing. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you.
Phil, how much of your job involves travel?
Currently, very, very, very little. Since I've transitioned from our marketing team into our curriculum solutions team, the travel that I've been even having the opportunity to do has significantly decreased, even before all the pandemic stuff. Just the nature of it shifted to much more of a scripted, needing to get a specific word. You know, being curriculum, you're trying to hit very specific things, and it's not really documentary at all. So it's been a little while, I think, since I've been really on a big trip. I think last year I had a trip to Texas, and that was like the last really travel for me there. So yeah, most of our stuff now is we're just shipping drives around, whether that's carrying them or send them UPS or whatever. And we can talk, if at some point, you know, we can talk at the video production engineering side as well. My main platform is Premiere now. We dumped our Avids a long time ago, back when Final Cut first came out. I think we waited till Final Cut 2 to really make the jump, but we dumped all of our Avids, went to there because we could outfit a ton of Final Cut machines with what we were paying just on the annual maintenance and I forget what they call them, the service packs that Avid was charging. It was like 10 grand a year for service packs. And that would get you the opportunity to call them for $350 if they answered. And yeah, so, and now we're on Premiere. When Final Cut went to X, like most of the world, we said, okay, we're already paying for Creative Suite products. We're just going to stay there and not go back. And we haven't really entertained going back to Apple on those.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question. I posed this question to Bill Weeks a couple of weeks ago. Even though you're not photographing faces, how do you approach people about taking some of those photographs?
Uh,
What is your
for,
method of approaching?
for most of what we're doing, we're walking into a situation, a club or church or any location that it's already been established that we're going to be there. We're just not dropping in on a random story. There may be some of that as we find opportunity, but for the most part, there's already been advisement. Domestically, that would also include sending them release forms and getting all that locked away. So there's not really a surprise, and it's not a hard ask because they're already anticipating it. Otherwise, I like to say a big camera and a clipboard can get you into almost anywhere. It can also get you kicked off of almost anywhere. I was in Kathmandu once, and we were at one of the historical sites down by the river, and I had FS 700 body, which is not a huge video camera, but it's a decent sized body that had a 70 to 200 lens on it, and just walking around filming with that. And I think I had 2 other still cameras strapped to me as well. And all of a sudden, a very American roadie's not the right word, but he's very definitely like a union gaffer type person, walks up to me and not rudely asks me like, "Who are you with?" And I'm like, "We're in the middle of Kathmandu." Like, "What do you mean? Who am I with? What's going on?" And he's like, "This is a closed set. We need you to leave." All right, cool, no problem. We're on our way to the airport. So as we're getting in through the airport and everything, one of the guys we were with was like, "What was all that?" And so we went through it, and come to find out they were shooting Doctor Strange at that site that day. Never saw any of the actors or any but that. A lot of crew, a lot of extras that they had lined up, but it was kind of one of those fun things of that time it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, like I said in the chat, you more than met the challenge of telling a story and photographing without showing faces. Great work.
Thanks.
Stanley, I don't know if we have time. I'd love to hear James answer the question about approaching people. I mean, I've worked with a lot of photographers over the years. I've never met anyone as gifted as he is in approaching people on the streets and engaging them. I'd love to hear you share a little bit on that.
How are we looking on time, Stanley?
We're okay.
Okay. Yeah. That's part of my motto of, you can do the impossible, try to do the impossible. I just go up and make friends with people. And I think I get that from my dad. My dad is really good. You never meet a stranger is sort of the attitude there. And then like the girl I showed you from Trinidad, really wanted to take that shot, and she was just adamant no. But after laughing, playing with the kids there, she warmed up and then said, "Okay, you can do that." So I look at it, I go in with the mental image that they're going to say yes. I also prepare myself that I might hear no about 5 times or a dozen times, but I don't let that discourage me. I just go ahead and, let them know, "Hey, I'd like to do this. It's going to be non-invasive. It's not going to hurt a bit. Easier than going to the dentist office." And so it's easy. In a foreign country where language is a barrier sometimes, I just, I point a lot. And I think a lot of it is just your attitude of positivity, as opposed to, I've worked with some photographers and they approach it in a very scared-like manner. They're going like, "Do you mind if I could I possibly take a picture? And, you know, the way they're asking is sort of uncomfortable, and they usually won't get a yes with that. But I go in just haphazardly, friendly, like as if I've known them my whole life. And if you've been around me much at all, you know, I can meet somebody, and then a minute later, I can say something like, we're old friends, you know, you're going to give me a discount on that, right? Or something like that. So, yeah, I think it's, Jeff, just mental attitude of expecting a yes, and if I get a no, in a very friendly way of overcoming that. It's been very rare that I get a no and completely shut out. But I can sense that. When there's that, then I respect that, and I back off. I'm never pushy about it. It's always jovial and friendly, and then they come around to the yes. And probably 3 times or 4 times in my life, I've had the hard no. Not going to happen. The Aborigines guy in Australia with the big long thing, I forget what it's called, not the didgeridoo, but the other thing. He's like, no, and it stayed no. So respected that, and I walked away from that shot, but that's rare.
Hey, Stanley, can I answer that question?
Sure.
You know, mine's different, I guess. I don't always travel with groups, though sometimes I do. I always tell people that your success rate, particularly if you're in a third world country, is connected directly to who you walk through the door with. And if you walk through the door with somebody that already has respect in that area, your success rate goes up incredibly high. And I usually, when I walk into particularly if it's a village or someplace that I've never been before I just start making photos, I tend to look for important people, whether that be teachers or pastors or maybe politicians. I look for those people, and I try to get to know those people as quickly as I can. And I use those people to help me with my storytelling. And I don't mean that they physically go out and help me with it, but it always gives me a reference point to go back to if I have a problem. And like James, I'm pretty good at walking up to people on the street. And, you know, I had an old mentor that used to say that part of photojournalism was meeting people and then immediately unmeeting them. And I'm pretty good at that. And I think to be successful, particularly if you're a wanderer on the street, that those are great traits to have. If you can't walk up to anybody on their front porch and have a conversation and leave that conversation feeling better than when you stepped up there, you're probably not fit to. You probably don't have the right skills to do this job. So that's just my impression of it. And James and Phil, man, really appreciated your work today. I so appreciate what you guys do and the heart you bring to it. And I think, you know, we often think this is all about photos, and it's not. You know, it's about what we can bring to it that can change stories and change ideas and change, you know, the general public. And I appreciate you guys tremendously. So
Thanks.
I was thinking about next week and then the following week. And is anybody not able to join us next week if we do this time? Okay, so I'm going to ask 2 people just to see if, and then for next week, and then I have in mind somebody for the following week that can't join us right now. But I was wondering if, Michael, you can share some of the stuff you're doing there with the Archdiocese in Atlanta, especially you've just had a new Archbishop and all that you've had to photograph. And then Allison, who's been traveling the world doing missions work the past year or so, if you wouldn't mind joining next week and just similar, you can talk whatever you want to talk about. But I think everybody here really loves seeing each other's work and hearing your stories of how you do what you do. Does anybody want to add anything?
Is Stanley.
Yes.
If I could do it the following week, I'd be happy to do it, but next week I wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay, Jeff, you want to jump in for next week?
Yeah, I'm kind of on that. I was teetering when you asked about next week. We've got some events coming up the end of the week, and I'd rather not commit to that but would love to after that.
Okay, well, we'll go with Allison for right now. And let me see. Hey, Donna, you haven't been with us before. You want to introduce yourself and tell us a little about you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Donna Permel. I haven't been to one of these, but I used to come a long time ago. I live in Atlanta, and I'm a photographer, and I usually do like events and studio work. What else should I say?
That's pretty good. Would you like to present next week? Could you do that?
What?
1 o'clock on Friday next week.
Oh, I have a golf tournament.
Okay, well, we've
Next
got
Friday.
Allison for now, and then we'll see about adding someone else in the week to the group. And if you have other people you want to invite, as you can see, the numbers go up and down based on work. There was somebody else who was supposed to have been here today. I think Robin was supposed to join us, and I had 2 or 3 people who said they were going to be here, and then they didn't show up. And I've been checking emails and stuff to be sure they had everything. And the only reason I'm doing the password, it's one of the few things that keeps people from, I've heard about bombing these Zoom calls. So that's the only way to kind of protect that. That's the only reason I'm doing it. So when you send a link to somebody, be sure they have the password as well. Anything else anybody want to share before we go?
Stanley, I'd like to say 30 seconds more, sorry, but that question Jeff asked, and another thing that's always in the forefront of my mind when I'm on, especially international, I feel the need to get the shot. So, because it's a lot of it comes about being scared. We don't want to be turned down. It's almost like when you're witnessing for Christ. We're afraid to ask sometimes, and there's that battle in your mind. But I've been in the situation early on in my career where I didn't ask. I get back and I wish I would have, and I'm sure all you guys have been there too. So it's that overarching desire that knowing I need a shot that sometimes pushes me out of my comfort zone to go ahead and ask for a shot, because I know, we get used to the surroundings when we're on the international field and it's all great, but when we're on that plane heading back, there's no opportunity to get a shot. So just a push to get a little more bravery. That's all.
I found for myself that when I became a photojournalist, that was the turning point of moving me from being an introvert to being a little bit more, well, one, I didn't want to be embarrassed when I came back and showed the editor more than anything. So that kind of propelled me as well to do the same thing. So what I'll do is send out an invite this week. And if you know of other people who want to join us, be sure to let them know. We're just trying to keep it to those who do this professionally. Rather than just hobbyists in general, but people who are doing this, even if it's part-time professional, it's fine. But because we have a lot more in common when you're doing this as a living and trying to deal with sharing the gospel, maybe through your photography or through your communications. And I'd love to be able to get writers in here as well to kind of share what they're doing. So if you know some writers or designers or anybody else in Christian communications, they're all welcome. So thanks for all showing up. Any last parting words, anything?
Stay safe and healthy.
See you guys next week. Bye-bye.